Okay, today we're going to talk about importing surveys uh, for use to create base or existing condition plans. And this will be part one of three parts. This will be importing a PDF survey, probably the most common that a landscape designer is going to find. So we're going to be importing the survey into Vectorworks. So a few things we want to take a look at first. The first thing is you can see down here I have my snapping uh, icons on. I have my snap to object. I have my snap to angle. And I also have my snap to intersection. These will be useful when I'm dealing with the PDF and the snap points that are in there. And I'll get to that in just a minute. The second thing we want to look at is we want to be organized in this file as all digital files. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create a design layer that is just for import. This is not the way everybody does it, but it's the way I do it, and it's an easy way to keep it organized. I invite anyone to come up with their own method. This is just one method. So my layer is going to be a survey. Okay. I'm going to edit the properties after creation. And the name is survey. I'm going to keep the scale at 1:1 at this point. And I'm going to keep the opacity at 100%. I am not going to georeference this particular file. I'll cover that at some later time. At any rate, I click OK, and now that layer is created. The other thing I'm going to do is create a class specifically for this this PDF survey, and the reason for that is that it's easy to turn on and off as I go through the design process. So once again, I just click New, and this I'm going to show you a little naming technique. I'm going to put survey and a dash and PDF import. The reason for the dash is each time I have something to do with the survey and it's an item that I want to have in a separate class, I can group them all together by putting this dash. That groups all the survey things together, and I'll show you how that works a little later. At any rate, I am also going to edit the properties after creation. So I click OK. I'm going to use this at creation. At this point, I'm going to leave the fill solid and white, and I'm going to leave the pen as 0.05 and black, and the opacity at 100. I'm really not going to be drawing on this, but I go through this each and every time, and this way, every time I do a class, it's the same routine for every single class. So I click OK, and I click OK. Now, when I bring this in, I want to make sure that it is in that class. So if I take a look up here, you can see that none currently is the active class. So there's two ways to change what the active class is. The first thing is to just come here and come to survey and click import. This little arrow, this is why we put the dash in the naming sequence. You can see survey dash, it would be survey dash PDF import. So then when I have survey dash tree or survey dash node or something like that, I can have it all in the same grouping. So I can change that right here, or over here in my navigation panel. This is my layers button, and here is my classes button. I just pick the classes button and I click in this space for survey PDF import, and that changes it here and up here. So now I know that that is the active class, and my active survey, my active layer is going to be survey, and that's where I want it to be. Okay, so now there's two ways to import. The first is to click File, Import, Import PDF. Okay. The second way would be, if you know where the PDF is, you can simply go to it. Let's see, I think it's, yeah, this one. And you can just drag it into Vectorworks. Either way works the same. You wind up with this same dialog box once you have it imported. And the first field here is talking about what is it you're actually importing. So if this was a multiple page PDF, it would be asking me what pages I'm going to import. This is just the one, and Vectorworks recognizes that, so it just has it as one. This area here, reference, what this does is create a link between Vectorworks and the PDF. For a small firm, really no need to worry about linking and all this kind of thing. What this is really doing is helping larger firms that are dealing with lots of information in the same file to limit the file size. There is always the risk of a link becoming unlinked, and so in a small office, it's just as easy to just import it and keep the PDF in that same file. So you just click import, and there you go. It is imported. Simple as that. Okay. Now we can see that this is not going to be easy to work with. It is oriented the wrong way. So what I want to do is rotate this. And again, there's more than one way to do it. The first way is fairly straightforward. Just come to Modify, Rotate, and you can rotate left or right or all these options. We're going to rotate right, and boom, it's done. The other way to do this is to make sure that your object is selected. So there's this orange peach bar around it. And also if you come to your object info palette, you'll see the PDF page is selected. And then come up to modify, come over to your basic tool palette and pick the rotate tool. And the way this tool works is the first click is set your anchor. Okay, so the first click, set my anchor. And the second click is what it is I'm going to move. And you can see I just gesture, and because I have my snap point on, this is snap to object, it is snapping right to that. I click again, and now you can see we are in the middle of rotating. So now I just bring it down, and because I have my snap to angle selected, it will give me the snap point for the horizontal. I just click, and we're good to go. There it is. Now the next step is to make sure that this is properly scaled. So on this, it's nice, they have a graphic scale bar. So let's see, I'll just use the line tool. I could use the tape measure tool if I wanted to, but just as easy to use the line tool. I'll come here. Now one thing about a PDF, particularly one that has been generated by some CAD program, is that it usually will carry the snap points with it, which is very convenient when you're trying to do this type of thing. So you can see this endpoint, that's the endpoint that's indicating 0. And I just pan over here, and that indicates 20, and you can see right there on the data bar that this is a hair under an inch. So this is just a little tiny bit off. So this is not going to work. So what I'm going to do is I have to now scale this. And the way to do that is come up here and go to your 2D selection tool, which, by the way, you can see it says selection tool and then a parentheses of X. Well, X is the keyboard shortcut to select that tool. So I select that and I come to Modify, Scale Objects. Now, if you know what the actual factoring is, you can use the symmetric factoring method of scaling, but I don't, and to be honest with you, I really very rarely use that. I almost always use the symmetric by distance, particularly when I have something that I can measure, like a scale bar. I come to this little tool, I call it the here to there tool. I click once on it, and I come and select my 0 on my endpoint right there. And by the way, an easy way to pan when you are in the middle of an operation is to just press on the space bar, and it changes the cursor to the pan hand. And just pan over and then zoom in, and there's my other endpoint. And it's saying the current distance is 0.99, which we knew was correct. And our new distance, this one happens to say 20. It doesn't always. Sometimes you have to type it in. But 20 feet is what we're looking for. Now, because there's only one object in here, this is by default to scale the entire drawing. If there were other objects in here that were not selected, Vectorworks recognizes that and will ask you whether you want to scale the entire drawing or just the object that's selected. There's also the option to scale the text. We aren't going to bother because we don't have any text there yet. But if you did and you wanted the text to be scaled with the drawing, then of course you would select that. And then just press OK. And it says, this is exactly what it says. Are you sure you want to scale the entire drawing? Well, I'm going to answer yes because it's the only thing I have here, so the answer is yes. And now I don't know where it is. So what I do is I come to this. I know there's only one object there, so I just fit to objects, and there it is. It's very easy and simple. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to double check. I've done this for a long time, and I always double check. I have made errors before. Here's my endpoint. And my endpoint, you can see on the data bar that it says 20 feet. And so we are good to go. And there you have it. It's fairly straightforward. Okay, in part 2, I'll talk about importing an image. Take care.